So obviously the biggest injury news from week 1 was Elijah Mitchell is out. They put him on IR, so he's at least missing 4 games, which is like the minimum, I guess. Could be a even longer process with that MCL sprain. Obviously, the running game is extremely important, Marco, to the 49ers offense. Jeff Wilson Jr. still hasn't looked like the Jeff Wilson Jr. from a few years ago that put up that amazing season. Is it true or is it fake news the 49ers running game is in trouble without Mitchell?
And they in real trouble. They in real trouble. I'll be 100% honest. They in real trouble. So you draft 3 third-round picks in the last 2 years. One of them's no longer on the team. One of them is inactive week 1. I've been saying Jeff Wilson Jr.'s explosiveness and his speed is no longer there. People didn't want to listen to it. I saw it in training camp. Saw it in preseason. Right? We saw it. Now he's averaging 2.5 yards a carry during the first regular season game. I mean, it might be that Kyle Shanahan wasn't calling what he wanted to see, what Jeff Wilson was looking for. But when you're called on and you're given the runs, you got I believe you got 9 carries for 22 yards, 2.4 yards per carry. Hey, that's a problem, especially when the guy that just went down is averaging 7 yards a pop. Hey, that's a problem. That's a real problem. So they better hope Jordan Mason or TDP shows up and takes the load, or Marlon Mack that they just signed, explosiveness is coming back, because Jeff Wilson Jr. to me is a problem to be a guy that carries the load for 8 games. Because from what I've heard, he ain't coming back. MCL is not coming back no earlier than 6 weeks. So 6 to 8 weeks is what it is. More so on the 8 weekend. So I definitely don't kind of worried about the offense, the run game, but at the same time, we're going to see a little bit different wrinkles with Kyle Shanahan using Trey Lance in terms of allowing the entire offense to take the next step in the run game. So I think that's what's going to fit. Jeff Wilson goes crazy and bananas during the zone read stuff or just the regular outside zone. People are going to be like, wow, Jeff Wilson's back. Yeah, Jeff Wilson's back. But realistically, teams are actually not stacking the box as hard as they have in the past. So it's allowing a little bit more wiggle room. So that's why we might see a little bit more production. But I think the main 2 guys the Niners need to rely on is Jordan Mason and TDP to carry the load. I don't think Jeff Wilson Jr. could be that guy, really, honestly.
So I thought that – so, look, I know that Kyle Shanahan usually strays away from starting rookies. He just has a thing, right? He'd rather go with veterans over rookies. But when it came to the running back position, last year when Raheem Mostert was injured, instead of going to a hasty, I don't think Jeff Wilson was active at that point, but and they had the 3rd-round pick, Trey Sermon, but they ended up going with Elijah Mitchell, who was the lower draft pick, right? Because he had such a great offseason, and it ended up working out really well. Elijah Mitchell obviously, broke a lot of rookie records, and that ended up being the right pick. What do you make, Marco? Because for me, there's a lot of similarities in the rise of Jordan Mason to what we saw in Elijah Mitchell the year before, right? And he got no touches. Like they ended up going to Jeff Wilson Jr. It really ended up being more about Deebo Samuel, and it's like why did he not give Jordan Mason the run? And even if you're trusting what he's saying right now, it looks like it's Jeff Wilson, and then we'll see who the second back is. So what do you make of it? Is this Kyle Shanahan posturing, or do you think he's back in his old ways where he just doesn't trust the rookies to be able to take advantage of, an opportunity to now wanting somebody to step up?
I think he's back in his old ways in terms of, so he has a young quarterback. He's trying to rely on a veteran guy who knows the system, who isn't going to mess up in the backfield alongside Trey Lance, who, if they do go play action, that actually running backs in on the proper route or have to pass protect the proper way. I think that's why he's going with Jeff Wilson a little bit. But let me tell you guys, that was the perfect opportunity, the perfect game for Jordan Mason and TDP. The power, the speed that Jordan Mason provides is the perfect opportunity in a very, very, very heavy rain, muddy like game for him to do something. Especially with TDP. We know TDP has that pop. So I was confused. Those two were inactive. Like, you're going to run 40 times this game. Yet you
Right.
have Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, and Jordan Mason. Like I honestly would have kept someone else inactive and kept those four active because if someone goes down with the slippery weather, you're more likely to get injured in a weather like game like that than a regular sunny game. So I was very shocked. I don't like the idea of playing Debo as your running back. I really don't. They
Yeah,
got
I
to think
mean,
of
you
something
don't
else
want
fast.
for sure. James Coombs, actually, Mason was active week 1. It was TDP that they made inactive. So the 3 active running backs were Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, and Jordan Mason. When Mitchell went down, though, Jordan Mason didn't get any carries. Um, so yeah, that was interesting to me. I do think that it just boggles my mind. Like Jeff Wilson wasn't doing anything. So why not give the rookie a shot? You know what I mean? Like something has to work, right? And he went back to just not trusting. And I get it. You make a really great point. Trey Lance is young, right? He's inexperienced. The right and left guard are inexperienced. The center's inexperienced. It's a lot of inexperience, and then the running back is inexperienced as well. It's kind of like maybe too much for Kyle Shanahan's like comfort, right? He's like, I need somebody that knows what they're doing. Problem is, Jeff Wilson just isn't the Jeff Wilson of old. He had the pop last year. We thought, okay, maybe, usually after an Achilles injury, that next year, right, 2 years removed, that's when you get it back. But it's not looking like he got it back. But let's hope it might have just been weather issues, right? We saw the rain, but what we didn't realize is it was monsoon before, so that field was really, really rough. You probably can't cut as well, especially if you've already come off of an Achilles injury. Maybe he was a little bit hesitant to take, the type of steps that he needed or whatnot. There is going to be rain against Seattle, but let's hope that it's a better field conditions, and maybe Jeff Wilson could show that he is better than what we're seeing right now. This obviously, to most people, is the reason that the game was lost, right? A lot of penalties on the defensive side, Marco. Very familiar to what we saw last season. Is this real or is this fake that the 49ers defense is undisciplined?
I think all 49ers teams week 1 under Kyle Shanahan have been undisciplined. It's been questioned at one point where, how's it going? When every week 1 Kyle Shanahan's team comes out and they're penalized a lot, they look sloppy. They question Kyle Shanahan's coaching ability, right? And I think there's good questions to ask. What the hell does Kyle Shanahan do week 1 that he doesn't do, or what does he do week 2 through 16 or 17 that he doesn't do in week 1? Like he allows them to be so undisciplined. Like for me, I would have benched Trey Greenlaw. I don't care how good he is. I don't care when you're making constant. When a guy is wrapped up in a game like this, and it's a very tight game, and you go after a face mask, I would have been like, well, you're done, bro. Like sit down, like relax. I'll throw Aziz. I'll throw DFF out there. Like to me, I think they're just an undisciplined team in the first game. I think it's just because they don't play in the preseason. Kyle doesn't let his guys play in the preseason.
I think that's a big point, Marco. What do you think about that? Because this is not just right now. Like there's been games that they've won, but it was still too close for comfort. They should have blown out teams. But in the first, like even last year, they let Detroit back in, things like that. Do you think there's something to be said that maybe Kyle Shanahan doesn't manage preseason as well? It doesn't is too conservative with his starters and not giving them that up to speed type experience that the few series in the preseason might help them with.
Yeah, I think all coaches do it though now, right? Like all coaches don't want their starters out there because of the risk of injury. But it turns week 1 and it's league wide, not just Kyle Shanahan. We look at every game from the NFL this year. Week 1, there were some ugly games. Like it was just hard to watch. Like it was like, well, all right, well, week 4 preseason pretty much is what today is. Like literally, that's what it looked like league wide. So I give Kyle Shanahan some slack because obviously you don't want your guys to be getting hurt in the preseason. You don't want them to get the reps. But then he does some weird stuff where he has certain dudes go out there and get reps. Like he played Banks and Burford the entire first half of a couple games. He played Hufanga for a little while. Like it's like, all right, well, what are you doing? Like, you want these guys to not play, but then you play some of the young guys way longer than you should. But I get the inexperience, but then it's like, all right, well, I guess that's how the NFL is moving, where they don't want any of their guys to play preseason and instead would rather have them do a controlled environment of um, like the joint practices. But if you're going to do that, make two joint practices, not one. Unfortunately, the 49ers had such a tight period of their preseason games, so that's why they ended up having only one. But I think it's an issue that Kyle Shanahan's teams have had in the past, and I think it'll always be an issue because he's one of those. I feel like he's a too much of a players coach where he doesn't get on his players for the undisciplinedness, or he doesn't bench them when he should. And it's, to me, I think that's a good and a bad sign, to be honest. So depends on how people want to view it. I'm cool with either one.
Yeah, I mean, we did see also the 49ers get penalized a lot in the first half of last season and really be able to clean it up later on. I hope that it doesn't take a whole half of the season again for them to clean this up. It does seem like, guys like Dre Greenlaw. It seemed like Dre Greenlaw was just trying to earn a contract. Like, he was just doing too much. I was a little bit disappointed because Charvarius Ward is somebody who knows how to play without, gaining penalties, and he had a penalty on himself. A lot of just getting out of position. Just like I said, I think they just weren't up to speed as much as they wanted to. Hopefully, that was all just week one stuff, and they could play a very clean game coming up this next week.